Earlier this year, my endgame mouse was released. 40 grams, a $33.95 sensor, an original shape, and some of the best tech on the market. Despite lots of viable contenders, this one easily takes the title of my favorite mouse, and it's so good that I have no interest in buying other mice at all anymore. So, which mouse is it? The G-Wolf's HTX 4K, despite the obvious similarities in name, is nothing like the HTS Plus or any previous G-Wolf's mice in terms of shape. Instead, to me, it feels like their take on an FK-style shape due to its more centralized and less pronounced hump combined with a significantly lower profile overall, lending itself to plentiful comparisons against mice like the Starlight 12. While these comparisons do make sense, the mice do absolutely have their similarities, the HTX draws inspiration more so from another popular mouse, the Viper Mini. It's an intuitively brilliant mix between the two, taking the Viper Mini's emphasis on palm support for stability with the Starlight's low profile for adjustments. Two seemingly opposed components, and yet the HTX manages to strike a perfect balance between them. Compared to the Viper Mini, there is noticeably less palm contact towards the top of the mouse, but the same amount towards the back, specifically underneath my thumb, which is where most of the stability comes from. To implement the low profile of the Starlights while maintaining that, they lowered the button height significantly compared to not only previous G-Wolf's mice, but also the Starlight itself. Lower button height is something I generally prefer, I think due to the same logic that applies when holding a pen at different heights. Lower to the desk, or pad in this case, offers more precision, and it feels great implemented here. The side buttons on this mouse are also very well done. The back one does feel slightly mushy on my copy, but the front one is really tactile, and also the placement of them is absolutely perfect for me. All I have to do is roll my thumb upwards instead of actually moving it to hit them due to how close my thumb is when resting to the buttons themselves. The mouse is also very well built considering the reduced weight. A lot of people's first reaction to the weight is probably to assume it creaks or flexes at the sides specifically, and while the sidewalls are very visibly thin, they remain firm when pressed on due to the PCB of the mouse being used to keep them stable, with these extensions here from the main part of the PCB leading into the plastic on the sidewalls. This is probably a big part of the mouse's structural stability, but it's not the only one since the top of the mouse is very robust as well. Even when pressing on the unsupported honeycomb at the back, there is very minimal flex. All this combined with the low weight, 40 grams on my copy, works perfectly for me. I actually played substantially better with this mouse compared to anything else I've tried. On the first day I got it, I went on a Kovacs score spree, breaking all my personal records, which has genuinely never happened to me because of a mouse before. To cut to the chase, it's my favorite mouse, and it's not even close. All that being said though, this mouse has some drawbacks, and while they could mostly be dismissed as nitpicks, this mouse has two giant flaws which might ruin it for a lot of people. I don't want to take away from just how great this mouse is, but I think it's important to be upfront about issues products have, even on top tier ones. By using this mouse, I'm making a few sacrifices on certain features, either because other mice do them significantly better, or the HTX just doesn't have them at all, which isn't great considering its price at $160. Where you personally draw the line when it comes to those quality of life features is the best way to gauge whether the mouse is right for you, along with of course hand size and grip style preferences. On that note, everything I mentioned earlier about balancing low button height for more palm support goes out the window for people with larger hands. Not only that, but while the side buttons are perfect for me, I think for people with wider thumbs there might not even be enough room to put your thumb underneath them. I can't comment on any of this in too much detail because I have smaller hands, 18.5 by 8.5, but I personally wouldn't recommend getting it if you have anything larger than say 19 by 10 centimeter hands. The HTX in terms of performance is pretty self-explanatory. My copy is the 4K version, which has the exact same tech as the HTS Plus 4K and only gets outperformed in terms of latency by Razer's recent 4K Hz mice, but has lower motion and click latency than anything else besides that on the market right now. The 1K Hz version also performs decently but doesn't stand out as much performance-wise. The issue with that performance though is that I haven't been able to fully utilize 4K Hz on this mouse because of the battery life. It's the worst on any modern mouse I've tried, and it took me a bit to get used to. I actually ran the mouse at 2K Hz for a little bit because it kept dying on me mid-game, and the cable included isn't good enough to run wired like the HTS Plus's was. I treat charging it now more like I do my phone, where I put it on the charge when I go to sleep every night or when playing single-player games just to make sure it doesn't die on me when I'm playing something competitive. That being said though, battery life on 1K Hz on my copy is fine, and I'm assuming that goes for the other version of the mouse as well, which I'll touch on more later. This is that aforementioned deal breaker though, this giant flaw that will really stick out like a sore thumb coming from a mouse like the Starlight 12 or the G Pro Superlight with their superb battery life. I guess it's the price you have to pay for this performance on a mouse this lightweight, besides the asking price of course, and I have gotten used to it, but it's still not ideal. This is something I have heard heard mixed opinions on though. Mine seems to last up to a day and a half of use, so maybe 8 hours on 4K hertz, but other people have said theirs last up to 24. Yours might be better than mine, but regardless, it won't be amazing. That leads nicely into my next point as well. Actually charging the mouse isn't as easy as you'd think. To address the criticism the HTS Plus received for still using micro USB, the HTX has been swapped over to USB-C. A welcome change for sure, but the receiver hasn't received the same update and remains on micro USB. Because of this, the mouse comes with 2 cables, a USB-C cable to charge the mouse and a micro USB cable that connects to the dongle. This is the issue that bothered me the least, to be honest. I just keep both cables on my desk now, the USB-C one in my mouse bungee and the micro USB one on my desk, which I use for any other G-Wolves mice's dongles that I have. The other major issue in my eyes, besides battery life, is the software. G-Wolf software has never been great in regards to this, but the HTX was the biggest hassle by far. It took several reinstalls of the firmware to get rid of this issue that popped up a few days after getting the mouse, where it would skip counts like crazy. It's really visible and just a bizarre issue to have. I have a few other issues with the software though, including it not installing properly, crashing my PC upon closing it twice, and more minor stuff like I'm pretty sure the battery indicator isn't accurate at all. At least it doesn't feel accurate on my copy, and I've heard others say the same. It also doesn't match with the LED inside the mouse, which I think actually is accurate. So given all of that, who is this mouse actually for? Something I've mostly neglected to mention so far is that this mouse actually has 2 different versions, the Ace and the 4K. The 4K, the one I have, struggles with battery life issues and comes in at $160 with a creator code. The Ace instead comes in at $100 without the battery life issues while still having that amazing shape. And while it is missing that 4K hertz performance, to me that's a worthy trade-off for a far more competitive price. For the 4K version specifically, I would only recommend this mouse if performance is something you're really fussed about. For me, and I think most other people, the 1K hertz version is much better value. $100 for this shape and weight is really impressive to me. Not only that, but it's actually even lighter than the 4K version is, coming in at 36 grams, and while it doesn't avoid all of the issues present on the 4K hertz model, it presents a very attractive option for people looking for that low profile, low weight experience at a more affordable cost, and is absolutely a better option than the Starlight 12, with the HTX having a more modern take on that style of shape and better performance. If you're looking for something a bit more premium though, I think your money is better spent elsewhere instead of on the 4K hertz version.